Welcome to Dear Diary, the self-love podcast. This is your place to dive deep into personal development and self-love inspiration, connecting you to your intuition, your body, and your higher self, while unlocking and activating your confidence and inner power, inspiring you to show up and choose you over everything that gets thrown in your way, instead of listening to the limiting beliefs running around inside of your head. We will explore a variety of topics from conquering fear, letting go of doubt, self awareness, mom guilt, trusting your intuition, along with a ton of self care tools that I'll be sharing along the way. With solo sessions and a magnetic guest list of remarkable souls, this is my platform to empower others while using my voice to share my self love, growth, and healing journey. I hope that this podcast serves you well and you get as much value from it as I do sharing it. So here we go. Welcome back to Dear Diary, the Self-Love Podcast. Today, I have a really special guest and good friend, Adriana Douglas. She is an incredible soul. She believes deeply in the healing power of music and most of all, that you can live a life that you are in love with. She's known for inspiring and supporting you throughout your creative process and walking with you along the roads less traveled. We talk about so much yumminess in this conversation. We talk about reclaiming our inner artist and creator, finding your people, and the power of community support. She talks a lot about discovering our inner artist. And in that, there's so much conversation about old coping patterns and finding safety in your body, embodiment, living while on your healing journey and actually living while you're on this journey, honoring the different parts of us, allowing our healing process to be a sacred journey, and really just tapping us into our inner artist. This was such a beautiful conversation. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did having it with her. Everything will be linked in the show notes, all of the resources and tools and ways to connect with her. So here we go. Let's get into it. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, thanks for
My
having me.
Yeah, of course. This is my good friend Adriana. We met. Has it been? Oh my gosh.
In a year.
It's been
It's
about a year.
it's
Wow.
crazy. Time flies.
Wow. That is crazy. Okay, so we met about a year ago when we both embarked on our embodied women journey. And for my listeners, they've heard me talk about it a million times. That was such an incredible time in my life. And I know you can attest to it, where we went on this journey and I learned so much about myself on that journey. And so that's where I met her. And I love people that you really connect with throughout your journey in all of these like virtual spaces and communities. And it's like you collect your people, and some of them you stay in contact with, and some of them you don't. And I'm just so happy that I stayed in contact with you because I absolutely love you. I adore you. I'm excited to have you today. So welcome.
Thank you. I know the embodied woman journey was amazing. It was like 4 months, and we did it last year. So it was like the last 4 months of the year, kind of preparing us for 2023. It was, and I agree with you, like connecting through virtual spaces and programs has been amazing. And it's like a testament too to the person holding this space, like the community that they create, because the fact that we were able to stay in touch, some other gals we've stayed in touch with, like it it allows us to like continue the ripple effect of like what we learned, but also feel like we have people on the journey with us. Cause I know, at least I'm sure you can um relate to this. Sometimes the healing journey can feel so lonely,
Mhm.
especially if you're in a place where you feel like people aren't either doing it with you, whether that's like your partner, your spouse, your family, your greater community. It can feel so kind of overwhelming and lonely when you're like on it. So for us to go on that journey together was really special because we were able to learn so much about ourselves and just be connected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a true testament to, like you said, the community aspect. And I talk about this a lot. I actually talked about it just in my newsletter last week. Community support and like finding your people has been one of the most like profound life-changing experiences on this journey. If you would have asked me 5, 10 years ago, like how important is, community and what I would like, I don't know. I don't need community. I got it. I got me, like I don't need my people. I got my friends. I got my family. I don't need oh my God, it's the most important thing to me ever now. It is so wild. And you are correct when you said it was the last few months of the year and it sort of like prepared us for this year to come. And when I heard you say that, I was like, oh my God, this has for me probably been one of the most difficult, trying years of my life.
2023.
2023, yeah, it's been rough. It's been really rough. Like it started off, we had COVID over the holidays and like just it rippled outward. So I'm like, oh my God, if I didn't have that, oh my God, I don't know where I would be right now. I'll be very frank with you. Like, I don't know where I would be right now, like
I,
mentally, emotionally.
I'm now that you say that, I'm also kind of like light bulbs or like my mind is kind of churning where I'm like, we were really just preparing ourselves for what was to come. That was
Yeah.
essentially what we were doing. Cause like
Yeah.
what you were saying, the community, finding your people, like maybe we could talk about that for a second. Like, cause it even online, which I know is where I think both of us predominantly hang out in community spaces, is like I don't say how to find the right one, but like there are communities that you might feel more at home in than others. And like, and knowing like, for me, it's been a challenge to be like knowing when to stay and when to leave, like, and how long, and maybe, because the journey is, they say like the people come into your life for like the whole reason, season, or like lifetime. Like, I found that to be more true with some of these communities come in, because in some ways you're like, oh, I did that course, whether like not even talking about embodied women anymore, just in general. It's like I did that course or I did that uh, membership. And then it's like, do I want to keep going or do I want to like uh, give it a rest? And even like pausing the healing journey and like living, because sometimes like I definitely forget about the living part. I'm like, I've got to like heal like before I like live. And it's like this whole cycle instead of just being like, ooh, I got the tools. Now I'm going to go live my life. So I would
Yeah.
love to hear like what have you found to be helpful when you said you found your people, you found your community? Like what?
So I feel like the people that I've collected along the way, like that's what I literally feel like. It's like you have like a sea glass collection or like a special rock collection and it's like, oh, that one's really pretty and it brings me joy and like, oh, that one's really neat. It like fits into, my thumb kind of just like smooths over that rock and like you find your people that make you feel good and shine brighter than you did before you found them. And I feel like I found this with embodied women, we've kind of some of us have really gathered together and I'm sure there's other pockets of women that have gathered together, right? And then I found this with my perfectly balanced community where it's the people that love me where I'm at but also encourage me and push me to grow, the people that can reflect to me the bigness and like the depth of who I am and just see me for who I truly am. Like that is everything because even, gosh, I love my family, but like even your family sometimes they can be judgmental, they can be criticized. It's like it's hard to find your people that just love you for who you are, all the parts of you. And so I feel like that has been a journey of, and it's not like oh, you give me high praise and like you make me feel so good, so I'm going to keep you around. Like, no, you also show me where I need to grow, and you also give me some hard truths. And that has just been, it's been everything. And I think with embodied women and with a lot of the communities that I've been a part of, when you can grow through something that deep and with that amount of healing, you're bound to create bonds. Like, we're going through some seriously heavy shit. Like, some of those calls were like, I was a blubbering mess on them, you know? And so it's like, of course we're going to connect. So,
1000%. Like and what you said about the family and just like sometimes people around you that are not maybe necessarily going through the program. I think, well, two things. One, I think I definitely underestimated sometimes when I was going through a healing or like a transformation, like what that would what that experience would be like, because I like would forget that the people around me in my physical day to day like were not going through it. So it'd be like I'd come upstairs from a call, yeah, like face like trying to be like I wasn't crying, you know,
yeah.
like I didn't just like, and because then you'll walk upstairs, they'll be like, "What's wrong?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Nothing." Like I just had a process, like nothing or everything. Like I just went through a process. And like it's all good. Don't worry about me. But like, because then it's so hard to describe because you're like, oh, I was like processing something from when I was like 11.
Yeah. I was just
And
hanging
so
out with my inner child and we just processed something really traumatic that happened when I was 11 years old. It's fine.
it's
Feeling a
fine.
little tender right now. I'm going to go have a glass of water and probably go to bed. Don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like I always felt like had the need to like explain what the process was instead of like realizing how sacred some of those uh, containers are, where it's like that's just where you can leave it all there. Like you don't have to bring it into, like you can, like as you're saying, like that container pushes you to grow and pushes you to like make a different choice in your day to day, but like you don't have to like bring the process with you to share all the process with the people in your outer space. That's something I'm actively learning because I always want people to feel like kind of like they understand me, or like I want to be understood, or I want them to like know and like connect, but like you don't have to connect by sharing the intimate process. It's kind of like it's like a delicate dance, you know,
For sure.
who you share it with.
Yeah, especially like being an entrepreneur and sharing, like having yourself be the brand. That's been a huge stretch and process for me to figure out like, okay, I'm going through this thing. How do I share it? What do I share about it, right? Especially when it comes to my relationship. Like that's a big part of my life. That has been a big part of my healing journey. It also involves another human that doesn't want his story shared all over the place, right? And so it's like being sensitive to what you're sharing, how you're sharing it. Do I share it now when I'm going through it? Sometimes I do. Do I share it when I'm on the other side of it, when it's really heavy and I don't really know how to share it? Sometimes I do. And so, yeah, it's a tricky thing to navigate. And I feel like there's no right or wrong answer. It's just like whatever works for you, especially on a podcast, right?
One,
Sometimes these episodes are so intimate and I'm like, oh, I don't know who's listening to these, but here we are.
I know, like honestly, that's definitely something that in creating a podcast. And so like I have a podcast that I've been working on that's coming out in about a month ish, called We Are All Artists. And really the idea is about living life as a conscious creative and tapping into that inner artist that allows you to really create from a more truthful place, or authentic place, if you want to use that word. And so but a big part of that has been like, how do you feel safe? And this is a lot of the work that we did in Embodied Woman too, is like, how do you feel safe in the body? And like I feel like for me that's been like the foundation of now where it's all started, because I really didn't understand the body before.
Mm-mm.
Maybe even before that, maybe that was where it started to dawn on me that like you didn't have to be in your mind so much. Like I can intellectualize pretty much anything. So like intellectualizing feelings wasn't helping me feel safer in the world. And maybe we could talk about safety for a second. Like has that been something that you that you, as a space holder, as a podcast host, as a breathwork facilitator, like I think sometimes whenever I've said safety, like I'll use it with people around me, like that aren't maybe necessarily doing this stuff every day. They're like, what do you mean you don't feel safe? And I'm like,
Mm,
well, it's not like I'm not in physical danger. It's like my body is telling me that there's an alert that I
yeah.
need to pay attention to. And that's, I think, where when you talk about what to share or not on a podcast or on Instagram or what have you, like it's tuning into that before sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. I was all hanging out in my monkey mind prior to tapping into the world of somatics, right? And I say this a lot, like soma of the body, somatics, breath work, embodiment practices, really just tuning into the body. I think my like tagline in every episode or everything I share is like getting out of your head and into your body, like 100%. I used to just, it was like mindset work and, you know, just living up here in this, what felt like a cage. And then when I started to tap into my body, it was terrifying. And I remember in the beginning of learning somatics, there was a lot of numb for me. There wasn't a lot of feeling because I was so dissociated and because I was so, just running from my feelings. And when I started to create some of that safety, well, first of all, the community helped that, right? Like leadership and mentorship and guidance and having a safe space to feel for the first time was so important for me. And I remember when I talked to Stevie prior to joining Embodied Women, I asked her, I said, I don't really feel a lot of safety in my current environment. Will I even be able to participate in this program? Right. I didn't really, my partner doesn't know about this. He's not on this journey. He doesn't understand it. We were going through a lot. And I was like, there's going to be calls where he's going to be here. Like, am I going to want to show up? Am I going to feel safe? And she's like, that's the whole point. So having that safe container helps. But yeah, safety in the body for me, even trying to explain it to him, it's like my life doesn't feel like it's in jeopardy. Like I don't feel unsafe, but my body is sending alarms to me that I'm not safe. And it's so hard to describe how it feels other than like a contraction or yeah, it's so hard to explain, but it's like this knowing that I'm not safe to share with this person, or this isn't a safe space for me to be me. So I'm going to be a little bit more reserved. And just tuning into the sensations, it has been so helpful on this healing journey. Um, yeah. What about you? What do you think? Like, what does it feel like for you when you speak about safety?
About safety, I think you hit a lot of it. The safety thing for me has been one, like if I start to feel, because I also agree with you on like there's been a lot of like numbness or like dissociation where you're like you kind of like get a little bit foggy of like what for me there's been like this like confuse. I think when the safety thing, when I start to feel confused, I think that is a for me, and I'm still learning this. This is obviously like this is always like super dynamic and evolving. So like for me, there's been like a confusion or like a um sort of like a more panicky energy. Like that's when I start to know that there's probably something in my environment that I'm not cool with.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something that I actually like a hard choice that I need to make, or
Yeah.
like or a conversation that needs to be had, or that I need to like reassess maybe who I'm sharing with, which is like kind of how we originally started this. But something that you mentioned that like is something that I didn't know until I feel like I didn't know that I had a choice. Like I didn't know. I don't know why that didn't dawn on me until later in life
Yeah.
in early 30s of like that there's the availability for discernment. I think like I didn't have like a very strong filter, or like you could even say sense of self. Like I didn't have a
Hmm.
strong filter to like be able to even have this safety discussion. Cause like when
Yeah.
you're like, at least when I'm kind of like, if I was just kind of walking around, like not in my body, I'm like, everything's cool.
Yeah.
Um, but then the discernment piece, like once I started turning that on though, it was almost like, it's like it went the other side, like overreactive, as in like everything was like, no, 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 like walls, walls, walls. Cause I was like, what do you mean? I've been like no filter. And then, like, and then like, so you're like, you have to kind of find some harmony with
Yeah.
it. And the harmony has been probably one of the harder parts. Cause it also kind of switching gears a little bit. Cause then when you go inward to find these answers, or to not even find them, to listen to the answers or to
Yeah.
hear them, like all of a sudden you have to get kind of quiet and start to make different decisions, or
Hmm.
more empowered decisions, and some might even say more aligned decisions. But also I feel like alignment has been thrown around a lot in a way. And I think sometimes some of these terms, even what we're talking about, safety, discernment, alignment,
Yeah.
like sometimes if you don't like, I feel, especially with social media being like super short clips of some of this stuff, that's why I also love podcasting, because we're able to have the full conversation of like what that means to us in
Yeah.
our life, because like it also kind of means something different to different people. And so I think that's been one of the important things too, is like how to find the right choice for the right time, like in your to make your right life, and also then not start judging yourself for the choices you're making. Because that was like the other thing, is like I felt like there's a lot of shadow and like darker material. The minute you like go inside, like you have to see everything, so you have to be like willing to see all the sides. And so like talking about self-love journey, like that was something that I don't know. You're given what you're ready for, as they
Yeah.
say. But like some of the like acceptance and acknowledgement of some of the more like difficult situations that I had gone through, or of just what behaviors I needed to change once I went inside, like that be also became one of those things where it's like, don't use the healing journey as a way to like judge yourself. Because like I sometimes would find myself on the healing journey being like, oh, look at all these things that like
Hmm.
I I did wrong, or I like sucked at, and like now I'm gonna like hold that over my own head instead of just like moving forward. I don't know if you've experienced anything like that, but that's
Yeah. Well, that's sort of like I got the level of safety that the container created with the women and the host and the calls and everything was very safe, and then it was like learning how to create safety within my own self, right? So that I don't judge myself for this process, because I feel like, and I notice this with my clients, some clients are like me, all in. Like we go big, we go home. Let's heal the hard stuff. Let's go deep down in that shadow. Let's pull out all the skeletons in the closet. Let's really like hone in and shine a flashlight on all the things. And then there are some people that are like, whoa, this is scary. Whoa, this doesn't feel so safe. Whoa, this is a lot of feeling I'm not used to doing. And so we're going to just like baby step our way. So I feel like, yes, everybody has their process and everybody has their different level of I want to say like a
tolerant.
spiritual tolerance, yeah, or spiritual practice. Like for me,
Yeah.
spirituality wasn't really anything that spirituality and community, two things I could give two shits about. wasn't raised in a spiritual family. We didn't really, religion was not a big thing. Um, and so I didn't have anything to believe in or have faith of. And so it was really an inward process of like, oh, I get to believe in myself. I get to have faith in my process and my abilities and create my own sense of safety so that I can heal this stuff that has been like numb or frozen or stuck inside of me for so long. I remember that call. We did a call, and I think, have I talked about this? I don't know if I have. I don't remember what module we were on. I'm pretty sure it was like shame or something. And she brought out, I don't know if you were on the call, she brought out a blanket and she walked me through the process with Dr. Sam Radar. And she had this little blanket and she like cradled it like a little baby in her arms. And it was me. Like I was watching her do it. And she was like, this is you. This is baby you. And in my head, I'm judging myself. I'm judging her. I'm judging the situation. This is embarrassing. She literally has a blanket. She's telling me it's me. What is she doing here? Like, where is she going with this? This is weird. This is not like, and I could have easily just shut down, but I allowed myself to like be safe, feel safe in that moment and to just experience like whatever came up for me. And I remember she said, "Oh, sweet Amanda." Oh my God, what did she say? "Oh, sweet Amanda, it's okay, baby." And I lost my fucking mind. I've never cried so hard probably in my entire life. Like I was like, like, and then I was
I was there. I remember. I remember.
like, so now I'm experiencing her. I literally the weirdness and the awkwardness lasted about 6 seconds. Now I'm in these like this deep, profound, like inner child shadow experience, crying my eyes out. All these women on the call. I'm seeing some of these other women crying too. And I'm like, oh my God, this is big. Like I just knew, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know what it meant, but I felt safe enough to just release whatever was inside of me that came online when I experienced her do that. And
Well,
I
that
know
was,
that's a
it
lot,
was so
but
courageous.
it was
Like that's
terrifying.
so courageous. It's terrifying, but like after you took like the 6 seconds, like you said, 6 seconds. Like I'm doing a course with Kathy Heller right now, and like she talks a lot about courage, and she talks so much about like takes like 20 seconds of courage. Like you just said it, you just named it. You were like 6 seconds in, and I
Yeah.
was like it just like you just surrendered into the experience. And
Yeah.
I remember if this was the same call, it was also like about slowing down,
Mhm.
I think. And
Yeah.
so like, everything you just named, it's like helping us to start going slower, because there are some clients, like you said, that like just dive in the deep end. Like I've just jumped in, no problem. Olympic dive. And then others that are like, I can do this for 5 minutes today.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got. And that's like okay too.
Yeah.
It's totally okay.
Yeah.
But
This process looks different for everyone. It's not, the healing journey is not linear. Everybody, I feel like the safety conversation comes at a different point for everyone. It looks different for everyone. But yeah, slowing down, finding stillness, listening to my body, noticing when I'm in my head, noticing when I'm in autopilot, noticing when I'm like the self-awareness piece has been everything. Like I was literally just walking around on autopilot prior to beginning this journey. Like you said, just I'm good. Everything's good. No, it's like I'm literally on fire inside, but everything's good. Like that meme.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you nailed it with like the self-awareness piece, because it's like knowing, I just forgot what I was gonna say actually, but knowing the process of like getting to know yourself like can make you feel so empowered to then stay in that safety, like if that makes sense. Because like
Yeah.
once you know yourself more, you're like, oh, I remember what I was gonna say. You what you mentioned about the process you were going through in that moment on the call was like you were also able to simultaneously hold and also be held. Okay, hold yourself and be
Mhm.
held because you
Yeah.
were nobody in the call could hear the like judgments that you just described. Like you were holding yourself and allowing yourself to be held. So it was like two things, right? Like safety with the self, safety with the container, and then also being able to see the it was almost like multiple processes going on where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
these voices are okay. You're fine. Like, thank you so much. And Stevie being like, uh, holding you as like baby inner child
Yeah.
and being like, that's lovely too. And then it, I feel like it starts to, I don't know if this is true for you or not, like the parts maybe start to back off a little bit. Like maybe after that process, maybe the voices were like a little less judgy or a little less mean or a little less whatever they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just started diving into this little, I shouldn't say little, diving into this rabbit hole. I joke with my people. I'm like, "What rabbit hole are you down this week?" I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
ICF, or I'm sorry, IFS, internal family
Oh, yeah.
parts work."
People
Oh
work,
my
people talk
gosh. So
about
when
it a
I
lot. I love it.
Yeah, so I heard you talk about that, and I'm like, yeah, my parts started to calm down a little bit. They didn't need to be on the defense so much. Yeah, that's been like a whole. You'll have to come back and we'll have to chat about that. I'm like, I want to have like a roundtable discussion on parts work. So I'm like gathering all my people that know
Yeah.
about it, and like I want to have
I
conversations
don't,
because it's been
I like,
so crazy.
there's somebody that I've been working with, doing vocal activation. Her name is Brooke Wolf, and she introduced me to the parts work. And like, I don't know, like I could not describe I say the science or the
Yeah,
research behind it, but all I do know from that and my own experience is that just giving a name and a voice to the different like layers
yeah,
in you has been really helpful because you're like, ooh, are they working like is every again, I keep going back to it's like, is everybody working in harmony or are like parts like not working in harmony? So that's been really, you know, I haven't like done that process, I would say officially, but just learning about it, like you're saying, the rabbit hole of learning about it has been really helpful because there's less like on my side, like once I kind of like knew or kind of like could map for the mapping out was really helpful to be
yeah.
like, oh, like, okay, like we're so multidimensional.
We
Like it's
are.
like
Yeah.
we're so like there's so many sides of us and like
Hmm.
I'm starting to have the belief or like agree with the belief that like we're here to experience it all, like all the ranges, like from grief to joy, from anger to happiness. Like, like we're here to like feel it all. And before I was like, why would I want to feel that crappy shit?
Yeah. Give me only the good stuff, please.
Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. I think that's been one of the bigger healing lessons of like what you said, like, because when you're like not in your body and you're like everything's fine, I think you're, at least for me, I was like running away from the baggage. It's
Yep.
like that's not my baggage. That's not, but it's like you have to sort of reclaim your baggage and
Yeah.
um allow it to have its time to process, to like really be let go, like let it in.
Yeah, I come from a family of let's just sweep that under the rug. And so everything was just like the rug was just piling up, piling up, piling up. And it's like, oh, I get to like look and see what's under there now. That's terrifying. And it's been amazing, right? Like this process has been so wild. So talk to me more about the artistry and about your podcast and
Yeah.
even your vocal coach, you say.
Yeah.
Like, what's that all about? Tell me about that.
So that was really, or the journey to being an artist, like reclaiming my inner artist, was really how it was like the mechanism for how I went into the healing journey. I didn't know it at the time. So I got Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, a few years ago. And it's quite popular. It had been recommended to me like by a few different people. So I bought it in like middle summer, late 2020, and started going through the book. And for those of you that don't have never heard of it, basically you write morning pages, which is 3 pages of kind of stream of consciousness writing. Like, doesn't matter what you write. You could write the same word for 45 minutes if you wanted. And then you go on one artist date per week. And that artist date is like for you by yourself. Because one of the things is like, people are going to want to come on your dates. People are going to try to like, it's like the dates for you only. And really, I think the way that I took it was to inspire your inner child and get your creative juices flowing. And kind of like, creativity to me is like, it's like who you are. Like, we all are creative. We all have that inner artist. It's just, there's so much stuff on top of it. Like, sometimes it just is kind of hard to access it. So back in 2020, that's how I started the journey. So I would be writing my morning pages, and sometimes like it was just a lot of I say a lot of nothing. It would be like, I'm annoyed at the lawnmower outside. Like, why is it bugging my writing process? And then, but after a while, especially because you do 3 pages, the whole like concept is also that, like, I think they call it the sensor, your inner sensor. So like, it was more of this idea that like, after you, I think maybe hit the halfway mark with the pages, that the sensor kind of like chills out, and then you start to get the real answers, like the true, the creativity, the like, what do I actually want to do? So it's this really intimate process of getting to know yourself, because how can you not when you're writing? It's for 12 weeks. So you're essentially for 3 months writing every day. Like, you start to, it's very hard to avoid like anything if you've been writing that much for that long. And I know, I'll pause here for a second, because I feel like you really talk about journaling a lot as one of your things. And so maybe I'll pause here for a second of like, what has journaling brought you? Because I know, because at least for me, like, I did the morning pages and I did that process, and I did the process twice. I did it for 2 cycles, but then I needed to stop because, one, it had brought up so much stuff that I didn't even realize I needed to process. That was the big kicker of like, I was walking around like nothing was wrong. I did all these morning pages, and then I realized that I had a lot of stuff to let go of, or to process, that again, I couldn't process it from the mind anymore. Like, the mind had kind of written it all down. But one thing I'll also like add a little like a asterisk here is like, I do highly recommend, if you are going through a deep process, like the Artist's Way, to me, it was a deep process, or anything that you have, what one of my mentors has called your mental health dream team, like to have support, to have the community, because to do it alone, for me, like, I would not recommend that. It was not sustainable. Like, it was helpful for me to have like therapy, or depending on where you are in your process, whether a therapist is important, whether a somatic practitioner is important, whether a breathwork facilitator, like somebody that can support you through the journey. So I'll pause there. What is like for journaling for you and this?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so journaling is everything. I love that I didn't even realize that the Artist's Way was like your kickoff point of all of this. You are like the 6th person that I have talked to in the
Yeah.
last 2 months. And there's a funny story about this, that has talked about this book. I ordered this book 2 months ago,
Yeah.
from, I don't know, Amazon or Etsy or whatever, and my credit card that I had on file expired. So like, I never got it. And then I forgot about it, and like, I didn't look at the emails, and I just, whatever, no big deal. And then finally, I'm like, where is this book? Like, I keep hearing everybody talk about, where's this book? I look, I find out, and I never got it. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then I had this story of I have really bad carpal tunnel. And so when I write in the mornings, my hands go numb, like
Okay.
totally numb. And I'm
Okay.
like, this is not sustainable. I think I'm going to get more frustrated by this process than, joy. So I'm like, maybe I'll just leave it for now. And then
Yeah.
the universe just keeps throwing me these little like, oh, the artist way. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, okay. So I need to get the damn book.
Yeah.
But because I think it's powerful. Writing is powerful. And I love what you said about like it's like a halfway point where I'm like, oh, now I finally am like tapped into like the good stuff, right? Yes, I say this all the time to my clients. I do what I call like a brain dump. And that's essentially what it is, right? Like you literally write the same word over and over again, or I don't know what I want to say, or just words. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to form sentences. It doesn't have to be spelled correctly. Like your grammar doesn't matter. And I do this a lot. And it takes a good like page or two to get to what's underneath all of that fuzz, all of that fog, all of that just noise. And that is when the ahas come. That is when the clarity starts to like, oh, that's really what this is. Or like, oh, that's what needs to be felt, you know? Um, and I'll do this for me. So talking about human design really quickly, I am a sacral authority, which means I listen to my gut when I make decisions, and I'm really tapped into like my yeses and my nos. So I'll even do like sacral sessions in my journal where if I'm like doubting myself, or if I'm needing clarity, or if I'm not really sure which direction to go or what decision to make, I'll just brain dump all of the questions that I have in my mind and then look back at them and respond with a like I like made space by getting it out onto paper so that now I have the awareness and the spaciousness to look at these questions or these things that I'm dealing with and find the clarity that I'm looking for. So yeah, journaling is everything. It is one of my like top 5 practices, if you will.
I'll also add to what you're just mentioning too. Like I think for me, ultimately, like because I did the artist way during what a period where like many of us were still in a quarantine lockdown type of situation, like work from home, everything was kind of paused. It was much easier, at least from at that moment, for me to devote the morning space for this. Like I will say that like it takes what about like it took me a long time to write. It took me about 45 minutes, I would say, to write the 3 pages in the morning. And so like I would say, because I joined a different journaling community at one point where we would write on a prompt for 7 minutes and 30 seconds. That was like the timer of the day. In some ways, like I could still achieve the flip from like censor more critic to like a more truthful answer in 7 minutes and 30 seconds as I did in 45 minutes. But again, we're like different. This is also the important thing of like different healing modalities
Mm-hmm.
and different tools for different periods of your life. Like you don't have to do the same thing forever. You could if you want to, and if it like continuously like self supports you. But I'm my cognition and human design, because you're talking about human design, is taste. So like I like to taste different, not just, and so what and you could maybe describe what cognition means. And I
Yeah, so it's how you mine is taste too. It's how you like digest information. It's how you digest food. It's how you it's like sensory, right? And
Yeah.
so I same, I like to like dabble and
Yes.
taste a lot of little things and see what works and leave what doesn't, and like
I've
yeah,
and
I
I
love
felt a lot of
appetizers.
right? Yeah, and I felt a lot of judgment around that before I knew, because I think I would get sometimes feedback of like kind of like, why are you jumping around? And it's like, no, that's how I know. Like
Yeah.
I tried 30 things and like now I know that, like you just said, you're like, I've got a top 5. Like same. It's like that's how you in a human design cognition, like that's how you kind of figure out your
Yeah.
like I can give you a specific example. For me, a lot of people talk about like Enneagram. Like that's something that I think I did take the test. I don't remember what number I am. I never went back to it. It just has not like spoken to my spirit to
Yep.
do it. But like some people like I feel like live and breathe by like this is my number and this is how I
Yeah.
process for my number. But like my cognition, the taste, like I haven't wanted to taste that any further.
Yeah.
But like artist way, I'm tasting this thing multiple times and I love it, you know?
Yeah. And I think that reigns true too for like different seasons. Like I'm in a tapping season. EFT tapping has been like really, really supportive for me. And I kind of did it back in 2020 with my therapist. And then we got out of it. And then now I'm like back into it too. So I think it's like seasonal too.
I agree. I agree. The seasons thing is so important. And also something you mentioned with the writing was the trust, like trusting the yes and the no.
Yeah.
And like that was something really brand new for me. Like even trusting and still to this day of like I had a lot of self-doubt. Like, can I trust the answers that are coming through? Are
Mm-hmm.
those even my answers? Were those answers something that somebody told me? Is that programming? Like it became such a like thing that's also why, as you say, human design can be helpful for knowing knowing how to hear the answers or knowing how to trust, right? Based off of your profile.
Absolutely. And you know how many times I have, is this mine written in my journal? It's funny that you say that. Like I'll brain dump all this frustration and like and anger and just resentment and and I'm just like, is any of this mine? And I'll pick parts that are, and I'm like, and a lot of it isn't because with open centers too, with human design, I have a lot of open centers. And so a lot of that stuff's not mine.
That's
A lot of
interesting.
it's other people. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The
Yeah.
other, well, you said the decision making thing. So like, and I'm not a human design expert, but like I know enough about my profile, I feel like to like understand I'm a triple split.
Hmm.
So like and if I understand triple split, like it's harder to like like the decision is like almost being listened to from like three places. Like you're split. I say that in terms of trusting the yes and no. I felt more difficulty in trusting the yes and no, and I think it's because of the triple split, I think.
It could be. Yeah. My son's a triple split and he will go into I like to use the example of going into a party. He'll go into a party and he's also taste too. He'll
Okay.
go into a party and he will scan the room.
Mm-hmm.
Triple splits will
Mm-hmm.
scan the room and they will look for the people that are like really fun and good and
Yep.
happy and good vibe.
Yeah.
Then they will pick out the people that they may want to stay away from that aren't so fun and happy and good vibe. And then they'll find the people that they know, like, and trust and that they, go to on a regular basis. And so they kind of like it's like that scanning of the room and like making decisions based on other people's energies. But I would say for the most part, going off of your authority, whatever your authority is, whether it's emotional or sacral, um, that has been so helpful for me. So helpful. Like I say this all the time, human design is not like I'm not like a ride or die, live and breathe by it. But I have that is definitely a top 5 tool. For
Yeah, no, that's also so helpful what you're explaining. It's like using all and so like also I almost like I'm revising what I just said. The what you were saying, it's like how the profile works together. Because what I just even named to you was like trying to pick a part of the profile in isolation, which
Mhm.
is like you can't really do that. So it's like all these things make up who you are and your uniqueness. And so like to pull out one part of it doesn't really give you the full story, just kind of like important to notice in these because sometimes like this used to happen to me with astrology, like where you'd like pick one part of your chart and be like trying to hone in on it, which is like fine in certain instances and certain scenarios, but like not all the time. Because like
Yeah.
the big picture is like what's going to support you with the clarity versus get because I can get totally locked into the details. So
Yeah. I bet you have the detail, Kate. I absolutely resonate. And we, again, full circle back to we are multi-dimensional beings. And there are just so many parts of us. There's so many gates and lines and centers within us. Like, it doesn't matter what you're studying. There's so many, like, even the numbers. I know that there's a lot of people that are like not really just one number, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's so important to just have an open mind. I think that would probably be the, like, if I were to give anybody a piece of advice of like, oh, you're embarking on your spiritual journey or your, you know, your self-growth journey or your healing journey or whatever, have an open mind because it's about to be like blown. You know, you will never be the same. You can't unknow this. I have a podcast episode, I think it's like number 3, and I talk about this, and it's like, you can't undo this, you can't unknow this. You can pause, but even in your pause, it's still in the back of your mind, you know, like, you don't, once you decide to do this, it is such an incredible journey, and it's so life changing, and you'll learn so much about yourself. And yes, it's hard, and yes, it's a lot, and no, healing is not linear, and there's all kinds of parts, and ah and it's such a beautiful experience. It really is.
It's it's self-discovery. Like that's so like going back to like the kind of tail end of the artist way journey of what I experienced was like, it will be different for everyone. For me, what came out of the morning pages was a lot of writing and storytelling and wanting to turn that into song and music. And so that's how mine like manifested itself. For somebody else, they could discover like that they loved making this up, like chess or
Yeah.
sewing, or they want to start like a making ceramics for Etsy, like, or that they, and also like the differentiator between like hobbies and then things that you want to like get paid for. Cause that's also a big conversation of like, you know, I struggled a lot with that of like, do I want to even share this stuff? Like we talk about like the discernment and the safety of like how much am I willing to share, you know, because in some ways with artists art with a stuff with art, like art can really help people and it can heal people and it can give them a place to like process their feelings too of what they're going through and create connection. And so it was like this balance of like self-discovery and creation and creating for the first time. Like I felt like for the first time I was creating from inside, right? Like
Mm.
going through this inner journey and I'm like, wow, I'm starting to create stuff from the inside and making it, turning it into real tangible form. And then also like some of that just being like for fun and for
Mhm.
joy.
Yeah.
And then some of that being like, no, I actually want to like support people in a bigger way with this. So like you know, you could do anything on those artist dates. Like I went to Chuck E. Cheese one time. Like, and I'm like, I like, sometimes I don't want to tell people these things. They're like, what?
No,
Like,
I love it.
because also when you're not, I think a big part of the artist way too is like, no, is what, when you and I have been talking about in this chat is like knowing who to share things with. Because if somebody else is like not on a creative journey, and it's again, it depends on the person. So I'm not like trying to make this black and white. It's more like if you can feel that somebody is maybe not going to be receptive to this, like don't tell them you went to Chuck E. Cheese, you know, tell
Yeah.
that to your trusted community that you're a part of.
Yeah,
Like,
it's having that like internal filter of like, oh,
yeah,
they feel like they would be receptive.
because if not, like what happens, and I think she talks about this in the Artist Way book, is like there are going to be, if people are kind of more creatively blocked, like they really might not, they just won't maybe know how to support your journey. And so part of it's like they don't know how, you know, another part is like they might not have like, maybe they don't think it's possible for them, like all the reasons why they might not be into it. It's
Yeah.
like knowing that when you're about to like creatively like pursue something, it's really easy then actually to go to those people to almost talk you out of it. So
Mhm.
you have to like know the dance of like, if
Yeah.
I share this person might try to talk me out of the thing I really want to do. Like, so
Uh-huh.
so it's all so like that's a mind maze for me sometimes
Yeah.
still, of being
No,
like,
absolutely.
the sabotage, if you will.
That's why when I started this podcast, I was like, I'm doing it selfishly for me. I don't care who listens. I didn't even share with anybody that I was doing it. I was just like, I want to do this for me. Hence why I called it Dear Diary. It was going to be me processing my shit, like a lot of, riffs and tangents. And sometimes I get on these episodes and I'm just like, this is kind of what's on my heart right now. I don't know what's going to come out. And then I have this download like halfway through, and you can even hear it in my voice. My voice changes and it
Yeah.
gets a little slower and it gets a little softer and it like, and so if I cared who heard, or if I was going to offend, or if I was, maybe barking up the wrong tree, I'm just like, if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. But yeah, coming to people with it's almost like this has been one of the reasons why coming back to community, why it's so important, because you find your people that you can talk to, and it doesn't matter what you talk about, they're still going to love you, they're still going to support you, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. um yeah, because in this journey of self-discovery, there's a lot of remembering and discovering of who you truly are. And as you discover and, dig within the layers of who you truly are, you learn things about yourself that you didn't even know. And so people that have known you for years and years and years are like, who is this version of you? I remember I had a conversation with an old friend, and she was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in years. Like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm great. And I'm like a totally different person than when I saw you 4 years ago. And I was just like, whoa. So the people that have known you forever, my family probably think I am a fucking quack. Who is this girl? She is not at all who I knew her to be growing up. Like, what the hell happened to her? And I'm having the best time and I'm living my best life. And I'm like, so proud of who I'm becoming, and I don't care what they think. So yeah, it's
I
wild.
love that. I love that. And because I'm like, I am visiting family this week. Like, I sometimes am like, these are the questions that come up. Like, what do I even say about what I'm doing? Or like you're saying, just don't fucking say anything at all. Like,
Yeah.
just be like, I have a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, and not even, I feel like I get questions of like, so how's everything going? Everything's going really great. I'm, enjoying my very surface level until the safety level is there. And a lot of times it's not. And so that I don't feel safe
Yeah,
around them.
great.
I just don't feel the interest to share with them the more intimate parts of me, even though it's literally public everywhere. You could find
That's
out for yourself.
so funny you say that, because yeah, like I think about that too. I'm like, well, we're having a discussion right now that we're both like, okay, like there's a level of like of of calm, of like mutual understanding, of connection. And like, yeah, we're like, okay, we're gonna put this out on our podcast platforms, or on our podcast. But like, I just think it's really important to like name this stuff and talk about it, because that's definitely something in the beginning of my journey, like I didn't understand. And then I would like try to bring up some of this stuff to people. And then I would be like, oh, wait, but like I shared a little bit about what I learned, but then like they gave me all this feedback that like I wasn't ready to hear or didn't want to hear, because I actually hadn't even processed what I learned yet. Like I was so eager to share what I learned that like it was too early. It was like I feel like this is I'm thinking of like a tarot deck right now. I can't remember which one, but like where it's like kind of like you have to protect the seedling, like
Mhm.
when you say you plant the seed and you've got to like water it and like protect it and like from
Yeah.
outside weather conditions, but like not, it's almost like to me like I was like pulling out the plant and being like, here, outside world, like
Yeah. Look at this
you
beautiful
tell me
thing I
how the
grew.
plant is doing before I even had like,
Yeah.
so just taking care of yourself and taking care of, and the like the discernment and the filter, and like you're saying, it's like, who can I share this with, and who maybe isn't someone I'm ready to share this stuff with. And I think that can sometimes be really sad too, because like you want to connect. But that's why these communities are so important, because like,
Mhm.
and you have a place to connect and you don't feel this like gosh, what do you say, like inner turmoil of like,
Yeah, I was gonna say
can
turmoil or like
I share, can
confliction.
I not? Friction.
Mhm.
Yeah, like the community gives you a place to like feel like you can share. And even then we could even go into like in sometimes like when it's unfamiliar, it feels weird. Like it felt weird to me sometimes to share things in a Slack channel with other humans that I had not met in person. But then I started to learn and like let the defenses down that these people were on a, a parallel journey that I was on. So it
Yeah.
was okay. Like these
Yeah.
people weren't going to come and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you shared that. Nobody was going to do that. Everybody was going to welcome it. And
Yeah.
that was the thing, like the unconditional welcoming. We
Mhm.
brought it full circle. Unconditional welcoming was like one of the like first things we learned in Embodied Woman.
Yeah, it was. Well, and that goes back to a lot of people, and I truly believe this, that society as a whole, we're fixers. We want to fix things. And so if you come to me with your plant and I'm like, "Oh, sweetheart, maybe it looks like you might be overwatering it," or like, "Well, it's looking a little wilted. Why don't you go put it back in the soil?" And like, you know, so there I'm not going to share an inner child healing experience with my mom, who's going to be like, "Oh my God," like, or feel judged or feel like we're all just doing the best that we can with what we have. And you don't have to fix everything. And so I feel like naturally, as a society as a whole, and this could just be me because this is my motivation in human design, I have guilt motivation, which is the natural desire and ability and motivation and drive to want to fix things.
Okay.
So I know a lot of times, like even with my partner, I'm like, do you want to vent or do you want advice? And people don't often like, there's no filter for like, they just give their advice. They just want to help. They just want to fix. And that's not really what we need a lot of times is as we're discovering ourselves, we just want to be seen and heard. We don't need to be fixed. We don't need to be given advice. We just, we just want a space to just be us as we're like, oh, look at this new version of me. I'm so proud. Can I share it with you? I don't know if you're going to receive it. So maybe I won't. I'll wait and do it with somebody else.
There's
But yeah.
there's like there can also be like as you were saying that, I was like feeling like there can also be grief with that. And I think grief was something I had not met grief until very like I feel like until very recently, in recent times where like if somebody's not able to receive it or willing, can like
Yeah.
around capacity wise, like
Mhm.
there's like so much sadness because you're like, no, there's this like new beautiful plant that's just ready to be harvested and like want to share it, but like there's grief if like there's no not being met on the other side, and like obviously at that point then folks can make decisions in their own lives about like what does that mean for them if somebody can't meet them,
Yeah.
depending on the relationship, the circumstance, etc. But like there's definitely some sadness of like, ooh, like it's not all once there's this new you, if you will, new version or more true you, like people will fall away. New people will come in. So that's what I'm saying. It's like all of the feelings. Like
Yeah.
there's the spectrum of feelings of like there's going to be so much new, so much good, so much joy, and then also like maybe some bittersweet endings.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is beautiful. I'm like so grateful that you are here today and I'm
Yeah,
loving this conversation
me
so
too.
far.
It's been so much fun. It's been so much.
Yeah. Before we go, I do want to ask you, I ask everybody the same
Yeah.
question, and that is, how do you show yourself love? Can you walk us through that process? I mean, I feel like you have
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
this
Yeah.
whole
Yeah. I
conversation, but
know.
like, yeah,
And so it's funny you say that because self-love to me before was like the cliche, I say cliche, like treat yourself, like treat yourself to like whatever thing was kind of spark. Like it would be like, do I get like go to acupuncture or like go to um Korean spa, which is really cool. There's a place near me that's awesome. Um, but it also now has turned into like more sometimes it's more of a masculine approach to I say to self-love and sometimes more feminine approach. Like sometimes it really is about even like the discipline of doing the hard things. And then sometimes it's like, I'm going to take a nap. So like, I would say that for me, the showing self-love at this moment has really been about having like all of my layers, like working more in harmony to take me in the direction I want to go. Like that's been the self-love journey currently. And it's definitely always evolving. So in the beginning, it was more treat yourself. Then it became more of a like, wait a second, self-love is not all sauna and massage. It's actually way more than that, since we're talking about this multidimensional concept. And then it became a little more like I need routine and structure, and that's self-love. Like getting the routine down is self-love this month or this season. And now it's more like I pull from both sides. And that's, I think, ultimately where I wanted to be. And that's a place that I'm content with staying for now on my self-love journey, is like, how do I navigate structure and flow, and also being accepting when each side needs its thing. Cause like sometimes I'm like, throw the routine out. If like I'm not married to the routine. It's like if it's not working, it's gotta go.
Yeah.
But also, again, knowing the parts intimately has been my self-love journey, of knowing like, is that part just like messing around with me because like I don't want to do the thing, or do I really not want to do the thing, you know?
Oh my gosh. I love that answer
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
When I hear you speak, what I hear is like, I honor the fuck out of myself. Like how I have this question, like, how can I help? What do you need?
Mhm.
Like whether it's rest today or structure tomorrow, or and it's ever changing and ebbing and flowing, and like listening to my body and listening to my heart. Are we in harmony? My parts and my heart. Are we in
Yeah.
harmony? Like, what do we need now? What do we need today? Like, I love that.
It can be like, it can also be hard though, because sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I really like, I don't know. Do you ever feel that way where you're like, like I
Almost
don't,
every
I
day.
literally don't know. Like, what do I need? And I'm like, I don't know. And at that point, like maybe it's just a walk or a meditation. Like if I don't have an immediate like thing. But yeah, that's
Oh my
it.
gosh. Yes, that happens. Yeah, I would say at least once a day. There's a moment where I'm like, I'll be doing something, I'll be creating something, or I'll be, working and editing podcasts, and I'm like frustrated. This is not lighting me up. Like, what do I need? Well, I need to do this. Okay, but the energy behind it is not like it's the need. Okay, it's not the joy. It's not the like. It's not lighting you up. So like, what do you need? And yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's like you need to get outside.
That's it.
5 minutes, and then I'm like, oh, I'm good now, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Or you need to drink some water. That's like a big one for me. It's like, are you not grounded? How about you have some water and ground yourself just a little bit? Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Thank
Oh
you
my
so much for asking me that question.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what are you working on? Where can people find you? I will link everything in the show notes so that you guys can go follow her and learn more about her and connect with her. Yeah, tell the people.
Totally. Tell the people.
Tell the
Totally.
people.
Right now, I'm working on a podcast, launching in November. We are all artists. You can find the trailer on Spotify. It's still in the approval process for Apple Podcasts. It's been a minute, but they take some time to approve the
They do.
initial thing. So, that's coming out in November. Then I have a website where you can find me, adrianagoescreative.com. And in terms of what I'm working on, so the podcast has been my main focus at the moment. And from that, probably early next year, you'll see me offering creative mentorship. And it's really like in a soft launch uh beta phase right now. So creative mentorship, and also so based off of what I was sharing with the artist way and storytelling and songwriting, I've put together some, you might call it a mastermind or mini mind, or like an experience uh with what I learned from the songwriting journey. So it's not necessarily like, first, I just want to like clarify, it's not necessarily like for songwriters. It's for those that like love music and want to learn through, like, when you listen to a song and you're like, God, I love those lyrics, or like those lyrics brought up this for me.
Yeah.
Um, this is more like I had a lot of songs created after this artist way process over the last few years. And with some of them, I'm creating kind of like a mastermind mini mind of like an experience of like kind of behind the lyrics, and like, let's go to like what was present and what's presenting itself and connecting with your inner artist in that
Mhm.
way. So um, it felt really fun and cool for me to create that. And I'm still working on which way to package it to put it out into the world, but
Yeah.
that should be available early next year. So
That sounds amazing. And
fun.
100% like music. I'm not one of those like music buffs that
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
but my breathwork playlists
Yeah.
are everything. It is a journey, right? You've done breathwork
Yeah.
practices
With you
before.
too. Yeah.
It's a journey. It's not just songs. Like they're intentional. Same thing with somatic dance. Whenever I attend like somatic dance classes, it's a whole experience, and it's not just the beat, it's not just the lyrics, it's the beat, it's the lyrics, it's the vibe, it's the energy, it's your body, it's all of it. It's a whole thing.
That's awesome. Gosh, somatic dance. We have so many things we could talk about, but like for next time. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited
Oh,
to bring those things out into the world. It's been definitely a long creation period. So yeah, I can't wait.
yeah, I'm really excited to hear all about it and to learn more about it. And I think that that's really cool that you're just doing it. Like it'll be out when it's out. I'm doing it. This is something that I've learned. This is something that I've experienced. This is something that's been powerful for me. So I'm going to figure out how to package it up and share it with the world, because I know it can help you because it helped me. And like that's what I'm here doing, It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's not easy to figure
So
out the nooks and crannies of like, how long, when, how much, who's going to want it, like, and I love that you're doing it. And I'm so excited to listen to your podcast.
yay, thank you. I
Yeah,
can't
you're
wait for it to be
welcome.
out in the world.
Yes. Okay, so everything's going to be linked in the comments. Go find her. Thank you, Adriana, so much for being here today with me.
Welcome. Thank you
This
for
was,
having me.
yeah, this was such good conversation. We talked about so much that I feel like it all comes back full circle to how profound this journey can be as we discover our inner artists, and whether it's artistry in music or song or creating just whatever. Oh, before you go, really quickly, I wanted to know, have you read Rick Rubin's book? Because if you
Oh,
haven't,
the
you
create the
the creator, is that what it is? I'm like looking to see.
creative act. I might be
Yes, the
saying this.
creative act. Have
I got
you?
it for my birthday. Somebody gifted it to me. It's on my nightstand. I have only read a little bit of it. Have you read the
Oh
whole
my
thing?
God. I'm gonna link that in the comments too for those of you like, I don't want, that
Yeah.
was one of those books that I think I could read over and over and over, or listen to rather, because it's on Audible, over and over and over again. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what you think about that book.
Ooh,
It's
cool. Yeah.
literally everything we talked about today.
Okay, you're inspiring me to read it because I know I got yeah, so my friend Brooke gave it to me for my birthday, and like I was so excited. I read a little bit of it, and then also like I went on to start creating the podcast and stuff. So sometimes I'm in like a very heavy like I'm gonna read everything, and then sometimes I'm in like the action mode. So I went into action mode, but I cannot wait to stop and read it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's all perfect. Good. I'm excited. So I need to get the artist way.
Okay.
You need to get into that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And that is it for today's episode. I hope that these words activated and inspired something inside of you. And if they did, please share this episode with a friend or on your social media, and feel free to tag me so that I can say thank you. The more people who hear these words along their path, the more we can help inspire and heal the world. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review. Trust me, your future self will thank you. Sending love and light until next time. I'll see you soon.